Hey everyone, this is Chris Anonymous, and this week's Vault episode is Dead Heat, a fun 80s movie. In the middle, there's one of the greatest set pieces of schlockdom. So enjoy, start a conversation, and we'll see you next week.
I am compelled by Schlock.
What is up, everybody? It is the Schlockening. I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson, and I am here joined by my good friend Chris Anonymous. Say hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
We are starting a little bit late today because we're trying to figure out some audio issues. It's one of those things where everything goes wrong, but a lot of that has to do with my lack of preparation. So I tend to always underestimate the amount of time that I have to do things, but it's all right. We are starting about 20 minutes late. I got a timer started so that we know exactly kind of how long 30 minutes is. Let's get right into the movie. What movie are we doing this week, Chris?
My choice was Dead Heat. Yeah.
Dead Heat. A buddy cop movie with zombies where the buddy cops are the zombies.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So to tell us some things about this movie, I always try to look at the financial information about these movies, how much they cost versus how much they make. I think I think a big part of B movies and schlock movies is kind of this idea that they're sort of maybe low budget, or maybe that they flop. Now that's not always the case. There are certainly big budget movies that can make a lot of money and probably are considered schlock as well. But in looking up the finances for this movie, in my short Wikipedia research, I couldn't really find how much it cost to make the movie. So some video research I did said somewhere between like $4 and $5 million, which I don't know, pretty low budget. It only made about $3 to $4 million back. So it would have been considered a flop, I think, in that regard. But it's actually a pretty unique movie. The director is Mark Goldblatt. Do you recognize that name at all, Chris?
I looked him up, and I'd heard of him before, and it kind of sounded familiar. And yeah, top-notch, like A-list editor.
Yeah, edited a lot of brilliant movies. Terminator.
T2.
Yeah, the Rambo movies, Halloween. It seems like he maybe is kind of hired on a lot by James Cameron, or maybe follows Arnold Schwarzenegger around to. I mean, and it's consistent from the 80s up until really recently. Like that dude puts in work, and it's all quality stuff. And he only directed one other movie, and it was right after this, and it was the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, which might end up in our schlock viewing at some point in time. Yeah, I've never seen it. I would love to see it. I assume it's as good as any of the new Punishers.
Yeah, and so that's the director. The writer, I saw the name. Oh man, my mind just went blank.
You have a special affinity for this person, I believe.
Yeah, Terry
Black.
Terry Black. Wow.
Brother
Black of Shane Black, which I love. In fact, when you were up here at Christmas time, I made you watch Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Awesome movie.
So good. I love Shane Black. And so I was wondering as I watched it, so I didn't know it, but I saw it, and then I saw his kind of style of humor in it. And then I saw him at the end as the patrolman, and I recognized him because he looked exactly the same as he does in Predator.
Right. Yeah. It's right after the ambulance crash and the burnt corpse of Officer Mortis comes out and takes the patrol officer's gun. It's a very shaky Shane Black.
And he had that kind of cool nerd vibe look, just like in Predator.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, I know that dude, and and I looked it up. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, he also had a very T-1000 look to him. Also,
he did.
You know, not super imposing. He maybe he missed his calling as being the T-1000.
Right. I'm sure the editor who directed this movie is like, hey, I got someone perfect for you.
Right. So we're kind of fawning over the blacks, I guess, a little bit. So let's go into the good. What was good about this movie, about Dead Heat?
Man, so much, but it dovetails right into Schlock. So I'm going to try and keep this part really short. A lot of the production value I thought was really good for that budget and that style.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And there was some great dialogue, some great ideas for scenes. Great cast, man. Vincent Price shows up, man.
Mm-hmm. A lot of great pedigree in this movie. The casting was amazing. Treat Williams, man, substitute 2 and 3. Good. The special effects by Steve Johnson. I don't know if you've looked up any of his work, but he's worked on some big movies. He worked on Ghostbusters, the Howling movies, Fright Night. And while I was watching this movie, Dead Heat, I kept thinking, man, this has a real Big Trouble in Little China feel.
100%.
And I thought maybe that was just because they went to Chinatown, and I was just drawing a false comparison. But no, he actually worked on the visual effects in Big Trouble in Little China. So this movie has an amazing pedigree, really.
Yeah, it really does. I will save my favorite good thing for Schlock. But what you've listed some good. What else would you like to add to it before we go to the bad?
Yeah, my big thing was that I loved the makeup in it. I thought the visual effects were very good. The zombie makeup, I think, it's what, 30 some years later, and they still hold up. I think they still look really good. They still look really gross.
The like half double faced zombie guy that they were fighting in the lab. Yeah, so gross and creepy that
biker zombie.
Yeah,
and just the fact that I thought it was thoroughly entertaining. It never a dull moment. It trucked right along. There was always something to keep you on your toes, and it was all around an enjoyable watch. However, going into the bad, unless you want to cut me off, I will say that as far as the dialogue and whatnot goes, very bad dialogue. It's and not bad, just unrealistic. What it reminded me of was that scene in Last Action Hero where the kid is telling Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, trying to convince him that he lives in a movie. And he's like, look around you. All the women are beautiful and everyone speaks witty dialogue.
Right.
Which it's just not real.
Written by Shane Black, Last Action Hero.
Yeah. So it all connects.
It was super heightened dialogue, 100%. And a lot of it fell flat, but a lot of it was just perfect for that kind of heightened, crappy dialogue. The bad, some B movie directing, some B movie writing, some, I don't know. I love B movies and I love this movie, but there's and I know it's budgetary too, but everyone had an Uzi and that's all they had.
Yeah. Well, they probably just had one Uzi and they just passed it around.
Right. And so you have that, or they go take a tour of the facility and they just so happen to walk by the weird room that that would be buried deep in a facility. That wouldn't be on a regular tour.
It was awfully close to the lobby.
Right. Yeah. They walked 3 corridors and they were at the 2 places that they needed to be. And they happened to know that they needed to be there. I'm that is so creepy to be on a real tour. That would not. So just
if you go right, there's the place where they euthanize animals. And if you go to the left, it's a place where they resurrect humans.
Right. And so that's just lazy filmmaking writing that pops up in B movies all the time, that you could easily fix, right? So there's a lot of bad stuff like that. There's some bad acting, but it's also some brilliant acting, you know? Yeah. So that's the bad, is just the kind of the staples of B movies that I think would be easy fixes, but what do I know?
Right. And that's a lot of stuff that I think I truly believe that a lot of the people working on these kinds of things really don't know that until things are filmed, right? If you're an actor, a lot of times you really just don't have any idea what it looks like because you're acting, you're doing that job. And you assume that the people behind the camera are doing their things, that the director is doing his thing, getting what he needs to make a great movie. And then later you go and you watch the movie or you watch the edit and you're like, oh man, this looks terrible. Why are they shooting up my nose?
Right. Yeah. You know, you also have the idea of like, maybe they shot them walking down 4 or 5 hallways before they got there. But then in the editing room, that's such a boring thing. Like, just cut to the resurrection chamber.
Right.
Not knowing that creates a weird sense of unreality, which is a complaint for a movie like this.
Yeah, big time.
But I don't have any other bad, man. So you just keep talking on the bad until it's time for schlock.
So I think that most of this movie is schlock. But I think the bad part of the movie, the worst part of the movie for me was the story, the jumbled story. To me, it felt like it was just kind of all over the place. It honestly felt like 2 different scripts. And I was really surprised to find out that it was just kind of the single vision of one writer, Terry Black, because it seemed like 2 different movies. Like it seemed like it was starting off as a pretty rad movie about like gangsters resurrecting each other to continue doing these jewelry heists or something like that. And then it turns into this movie about rich old people trying to essentially find the fountain of youth. So just two very disjointed stories to me.
Well, shall we continue with the schlock?
Yeah, let's continue with the schlock. I got a question for you. I understand that these are zombies, that they're creating zombies. Big question. Why did the fat biker that Officer Bigelow fought, why did he have 3 noses?
Right. And like a mouth and a half. My guess is that they were like testing it out and like he was like one of their beta projects. I think the real answer is probably because it looked cool.
Yeah. That I'm sure that is the real answer. But, you know, I like to think, does the machine start mutating people? Did they have to, was that a part of like reconstructing him? Maybe he got in a terrible motorcycle accident and his face is gone and they like started putting parts and pieces back together.
Yeah, that would be my guess. Would be something like where they had to piece them together. And I think it was probably a test run type thing where like, yeah, we're trying this thing out. So what schlock did you like? What was, it was just pure schlock to me.
Well, I mean, the scene in Chinatown was pretty amazing with all of the reanimated corpses of ducks.
And yeah, so I told you I was saving my favorite bit for schlock, and you just named it.
Go at it.
I think that is one of the most brilliantly conceived, like schlocky action scenes ever. Like that you just put that in any movie and that movie gets so much better. Like it's like the perfect 80s action, like in Chinatown. It was so Big Trouble in Little China, which I love. It's one of my favorite movies.
Why was he having such a hard time fighting that liver, getting it off of his face? It just didn't come up with anything for him to do. And then the big like bowl thing came out. I just realized that it was a bowl in a china shop. Oh wow, man, that just blew my mind. That is absolutely true.
Man, I laughed out loud. I was giddy. I was giggling. That was one of the best movie scenes I've seen this year. Any movie.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Such a cool idea. Like that's worth me paying whatever I would pay to see this.
Right. And that's
just brilliant.
That is absolute gold that you're not going to get from the big budget non-schlocky movies, because they're not going to take risks like that.
And what a brilliant escape plan for a bad guy. Have this thing that shoots down and animates everything in your shop to attack.
Yeah.
That's so perfect. Saturday morning cartoon. I love it.
Oh, well, the whole thing is very Saturday morning cartoon. This secret society of old rich people that want to live forever. The whole thing just really went off the rails. And
this is my kind of schlock. This is one of my favorite movies I've seen in a long time. And there's so many problems with it, and there's so many bad things in it, but I loved it.
So something that really bothers me, and it's been bothering me since I watched it, the way they treated, I guess it's Officer Mortis's ex-girlfriend, Rebecca, I believe her name is.
That was a weird thing, because you had that sexual tension between her and Mortis, they had just broke up, and how you doing? Mm-hmm. Well, I have a phone, But then it felt like he was also trying to get with the PR person from the lab.
Right. What was her name? Randy. Yeah, that's another weird story. And like I said, it all feels like it's just two different movies, because Rebecca the coroner, clearly very smart person. She immediately figures out how to use the resurrection machine.
Which is also so B movie, poor logic.
Yeah, well, she's a coroner. She deals with dead bodies. It totally makes sense.
Yeah, you type in their name and you press start.
Like a microwave. But later, she tells them that she thinks she knows a way to extend the afterlife, to extend the process. And they're like, no time for that.
He's like, I ain't got time for that.
We have to keep going with this quickly dwindling time frame that we have.
And I think when they say it, they really don't have any leads.
Yeah. Well, she says it, and I'm thinking oh, okay, this is going to come into play later. And the movie just went so weird that when Mortis gets put into the back of the hearse and her body is in there, I thought for certain that she was going to come alive. Either she was just knocked out, or she had been killed and figured out a way, something to inject herself with so that she could live indefinitely. But nope,
right.
She was just dead. I thought if you remember, Robert Picardo makes a appearance in the movie at the beginning during the shootout at the bank heist, or at the jewelry store heist. Mm-hmm. He's the bald lieutenant. I don't know his ranks.
Right, where he takes the car.
But he had kind of such a big role in that moment. I thought for sure that's an Act 3 character, right? He's going to come back in Act 3. He's going to be the cavalry when they come in.
And then they had the generic scene where it's the chief or whoever yelling at him you wrecked a car and how dare you? But you're right. And so you think he might come back too. Yeah. Basically the whole fact that they're cops and they deal with that kind of just, except for that they go around shooting things, just kind of goes to the wayside. Well, and the other thing is they could have had Vincent Price extend their life at the end and still destroy the machine afterwards and kill him.
Right. Instead,
it was just this weird, they had a death wish, well, let's just go out with a bang.
Yeah, they were awfully nonchalant about life and death and what mortality means. They did not bother to dip into that philosophical pool whatsoever. Nope. But that being said, a theme that I saw going through, and I thought for sure this is the solve for the problem of the movie. The first scene with the coroner, she has these, they're not frozen, they're encased in glass fish.
But that theme ran through the whole thing.
Exactly. Ran through the entire thing. living fish. The fish have died. These fish, they can't die because they're just encased. I thought, okay, surely that they're pointing at something, and this is going to be like the big solution at the end of the story when Robert Picardo comes in shooting and Rebecca has figured out the way to extend life. Like it's all going to tie together at the end. But nope, they just shoot a bunch of
walk off into the mist.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have a death day party. Oh, you know what though? They said, welcome to Zombieland in this.
I did catch that, and I was like, I wonder if there's a connection there or not.
Yeah, maybe it's a slight homage or something. I don't know, but yeah. Oh, and Treat Williams was awesome. Joe Piscopo was awesome. Like, I just thoroughly enjoyed it, man. It was. Yeah. I love the scene where she like confesses in the bathroom and then melts and explodes.
Oh, that scene was awesome. I thought her story was really ridiculous. She goes from like the daughter to, the PR person to the daughter to like the nurse or caretaker to like a drug addict experiment. And like, she just like keeps turning into like these different characters. And then she just melts, and the melting
she just melts
was awesome.
And it's interesting because it was weird because that felt like the scene in like schlocky 80s, like action where like they hook up, right? Like it's a downbeat, and she just came out of the shower and he walks in and they have a heart to heart.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the scene where they get down, and instead she's like, I got something to confess. And then she just starts wilting and growing old. And I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think that was probably my favorite scene. Just the effects I was blown away by, to be completely honest.
Oh, and then to add schlock upon schlock of this is what I love about so many 80s movies. It had a theme song. Like it had a song called Dead Heat that played in the credits. It just many schlocky 80s movies had that, and good
That's
ones
something
too.
They got to bring that back for sure.
Yeah, movies need more theme songs
where they tell you exactly what happened in the movie you just saw.
Yep, and you can hear it before you see the movie.
The spoilers.
The spoiler song. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh man, you got anything else? How much time do we have?
We have about 6 minutes left, so I guess we should probably start wrapping this up. It's been a hectic. What is this? Our third or fourth podcast?
Third podcast. Fourth.
Well, you know what they say, the fourth time is a charm. The movie we're going to be doing next week, I've already picked it out. It's by an award-winning director named Peter Jackson called Bad Taste.
Ah, yes.
So check out Tubi. It's on there for free. I'm Darby Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous. We've been compelled by Schlock. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week, hopefully at 6 p.m. or about.
Schlock.
Take it easy, everybody.
Problems.
Schlocky, schlock.
Peace out.
Schlock. Schlocky, schlock. Schlock.